We have a new array of anti-cult activists, podcasters, social media influencers, oddly, even cybersecurity people and people working for US government agencies, seeming to be trying to make religious trauma a new diagnosis in the DSM.
Brief definition of religious trauma syndrome. RTS is the condition experienced by people who are struggling with leaving an authoritarian, dogmatic religion and coping with the damage of indoctrination.
To do this would create a legal footing for the accusation of spiritual abuse, which would now be seen as trauma from simply growing up in a religious family.
Aren't fundamentalist children told all the time that they are sinners, inherently bad and condemned unless they confess and get saved? The popular hymn, Amazing Grace, refers to the self as a wretch like me.
In the US, we see the misuse of statistics to argue that nearly all Protestants are secretly Christian nationalists or white supremacists.
We know that 2/3 of white evangelicals sympathize or adhere to white Christian nationalist beliefs. So where do they fall within this larger movement?
White evangelicals remain committed to the MAGA movement, and one of the key indicators of why is Christian nationalism.
There's a misuse of statistics to proclaim ahead of time the precipitous decline of religion.
According to a national poll just this March, less than half of the adults in the U.S. belong to a religious congregation.
It's also significant to note that the choice to demonize other political and cultural groups is also happening. The word cult is being expanded well beyond religion to apply to Republicans and other political groups.
Leah Patterson, who's representing Christians Engaged, she said this: if the IRS is going forward thinks that Bible teachings is Republican affiliated, then that could endanger the tax-exempt status of many religious organizations.
And very, very specifically, anybody hesitant about mRNA vaccine therapies. The people promoting anti-cult demonization are extremely powerful. One example would be Paul Offit from the National Institute of Health.
These aren't religious choices in that they put their child at unnecessary risk, or in the case of choosing not to get a vaccine, those with whom they come in contact. These acts should not be given the legal protection of religion.
We also should think about a figure named Adam Grant, who's a professor at University of Pennsylvania. We know he has ties to the World Economic Forum. He also has been publishing anti-cult messaging.
If I'm a preacher and a prosecutor, I've already decided that I'm right and you're wrong. You're the one who needs to think again, but I get to freeze my beliefs. One of the most compelling alternatives to preaching, politicking, and prosecuting is to think like a scientist. Thinking like a scientist means valuing the pursuit of knowledge instead of foolish consistency or pride or conviction.
I believe that all of these are mechanisms of reflexive control designed to shape public opinion. In other words, in the US and globally, the choice to demonize religious groups is part of a campaign to ensure religious regulation.
Do you think religious institutions like colleges, churches, charities, should they lose their tax-exempt status if they oppose same-sex marriage?
Yes.
Crosspoint Church, which owns Bangor Christian Schools, had won a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case 2 years ago, which requires the state to pay for the tuition of students at religious schools if the school requests it. Shortly after that ruling, Maine's legislature amended the state's Human Rights Act to require schools that take public funding also accept LGBTQ students and hire LGBTQ employees.
Interesting comparison in the United States with the Lucumi decision, which happened in the 1990s.
There is no peace in the Santeria war. Protesters are putting pressure on City Hall to pass an ordinance making it a crime to sacrifice animals. The church is seeking sanctuary under the Constitution.
The more repugnant that it is to the general population, the more protected it has to be under the First Amendment to the Constitution.
This case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the decision that was passed down established under American law that governments cannot pass laws that specifically target individual religious minorities. And so, in other words, a city government, a local government, a state government can't decide, we dislike the activities of this religion, and so therefore we'll pass a law that will make it very, very hard to do its practices. What does this seem to indicate? What conclusions can be drawn? The role of the Japanese Communist Party is manifest, and the involvement of the European anti-cult movement is also highly likely given calls for the adoption of French law. Although unproven, it is also likely that the defamation campaign against the Family Federation is being pushed by the Chinese Communist Party, both for the ties historically between the Chinese Communist Party and the Japanese Communist Party, and also for the long history of using soft power through the United Front and the China Anti-Cult Network to drive down support for religious minorities around the world.
In the Communist Manifesto, they want to abolish private
property, they want to abolish religion, and they want to abolish family. And to me, when they say religion, they really, really means Christianity.
Right.
Because only Christianity posed the mortal threat to communism.
Right.
Communism is a religion. It is not simply an economic system.
In Japan, the Family Federation is the near target, but if one thinks of how the activism against the Family Federation is being conducted, this looks very much like part of an international campaign. I believe that investigation and legal discovery would show many actors are hostile to religion, not only the CCP and not only against unificationism.
I think it's important to remember China is an atheist regime, and the only reason that they're keeping religions around is that they wanted to use them as a political tool.